Thanks very much, Karen Corla, and thank you, Minister, for bringing this legislation forward. I think, for me, this is really one of the important things about this piece of legislation is the context that we are in, and that is we are still in the depths of a very serious and very real pandemic. We have a virus that is, despite what some people say, very real. It is very dangerous, and we need to take steps to address that and to protect our public health and to protect life in this country. We have all made sacrifices. We have all been working towards this. I personally have cancelled my wedding postponed my wedding as a result of this pandemic, and I'm sure there are many others who have made worse sacrifices than that. So when we see those who are not following the rules and not following the guidelines, it's understandable that people become very angry and very frustrated at that. And I think, the events in Clifton just simply fuel that, and it shows people that there are those who see themselves above the guidelines and above the law, which just is not the case and should not be the case. And I know that I've been getting a lot of calls, concerned calls from constituents in relation to pubs that are open, that are in relation to pubs that are in flagrant breach of guidelines. And I've been talking to Gardaí who are doing their best in relation to these, particular pubs and ensuring the health and welfare of my constituents and of the population at large. And I know that this legislation, in that context of the public health emergency that is real and still ongoing, in the context of the guards needing the powers to do their work and freeing them up to do the kind of policing and the community policing that they want to do and that is very needed in other parts of my constituency, is a really positive thing. Now, I think with anything, it's about balance. Particularly with the criminal justice, it's about balance between, supporting the society and ensuring the rest of us, ensuring social safety while also individual rights. And I think we've done quite well in this act, in this bill, in relation to that. I'm very glad that the provisions in terms of house parties and private homes have been dropped for the moment, because I think that is a very difficult and very sensitive area, and one that needs to be looked at very carefully because of the potential for huge unintended consequences that can be very repressive. So, by not including them at this stage, we are bringing balance to this legislation. The sunset clause, both in this and in the regulations that we introduced before, both have the sunset clause, both are time limited, both have a shelf life. That is a very, very key part. And I would like to see, as other deputies have called for here today, that any extension which is possible in the law is time limited. And even those extensions themselves, it would be, the most beneficial thing would be that there is a limited number of extensions, instead of a situation where we risk endless extension after extension after extension rolling over. And again, that's about balance. It's about giving the Gardaí the powers they need to effectively enforce reasonable public health guidelines while also ensuring some level of oversight and preventing overreach of very strong legislation. I think that it is very important that we do start looking at how we can open all pubs. And I think this legislation, if that helps us towards it, is definitely beneficial. And we do need to start looking at that and talking about that. We were in a situation where we needed to improve our licensing anyway. I would argue, we have a nighttime economy that is hamstrung by very outdated licensing legislation. We had a nightclub scene that, if you compare it, say, to other countries, was on its knees and struggling. And the reality is that we need to look at our licensing laws anyway. And now we have this new context where our nighttime economy has been utterly decimated, where our hospitality, our entertainment industry has been utterly decimated. So now is a chance, I believe, that we should be looking at these licensing laws and rules for pubs and clubs and entertainment in the round in a broader way, so that we can ensure that all of them can open safely during this COVID pandemic, and that they are set up for the future when we move past this pandemic and are looking at a more, looking to reinvigorate our hospitality, our entertainment, our nighttime economy, and all these sorts of things. And I welcome the work that Minister Martin is doing in relation to the nighttime economy task force in terms of the cultural aspects of it. But this has to be supported by more modern licensing laws. And I think a perfect example of this is actually what some of the deputies today have been talking about. If we open more pubs, we will help prevent overcrowding, which is a public health danger. There will be more options for people to go to. And if we look at the city centre here on a Friday night before COVID, or a Saturday night, with all pubs and clubs closing at the same time, everyone is fighting for the same night link and the same taxis. If we give people more options and are more flexible in our approach, these kind of conflicts are less likely. So if we are in a position where we can open more pubs safely, then we will have people spread out more. We can actually have more effective social distancing. There'll be less pressure on the pubs and and we can address help open everything safely. So I think this piece of legislation, if that helps us achieve that, this is definitely worth supporting. I do just want to briefly, in the time left to me, raise another issue related to this, because it is about getting balance right in our criminal justice system. And I think that one of the things we've been looking at as well is with our prison service. We've had no cases of COVID within our prison service during the height of the pandemic, which was something an achievement to be proud of. But at the end of July, the inspectors of prisons issued a report relating to cocooning of prisoners, and described 30 hours with no out of cell time, deteriorating mental health, deteriorating physical health. So, just like we have a sunset clause in this legislation, we need to ensure that anything we're doing within the prisons and within other parts of the criminal justice system have that same balance, and do not cause more harm while trying to prevent harm, that we do not cause greater harm in the long run. I also have been contacted by people from within my constituency who work as community prison link workers, who have struggled to get access to their clients because of the restrictions on prison visitors. These are vital services preparing people to leave prison. And if we don't prepare people to leave prison, we are begging for them to to end up back in prison again. Supports on leaving prison are incredibly important in terms of reducing recidivism. And bringing people back into society and giving them a route back in. So some of these people are saying the prisoners are giving up their personal family phone calls to be able to call their link workers. Surely even something as simple as putting these link workers on the list of approved professionals so that they can access them more regularly and easier without sacrificing contact with family would go a long way. So I think I would ask the Minister just if she could look at those issues as well, and I'd happily provide her details of some of this stuff raised to me directly by constituents. Because again, I think ultimately it's about getting the balance right within our criminal justice system in general. And I think this bill, shouldn't be so presumptuous, this bill helps achieve that balance by giving the Gardaí extra powers that they need to enforce the regulations, while ensuring the sunset clauses are there, while ensuring we don't overstep the mark in terms of house parties, and while all the time taking that graduated response of engagement first and building up as we go, which I think is the correct thing. So thank you, Minister, for that.